Welcome in Turnhout on this festival. I want to ask you to begin with, why did you make this movie after Al Gore did his movie about the climate change?
Well, it's funny because some people have said that to us, why make another film about climate change? But it's not like you only need one film about the biggest issue of all time. You don't have only one film about love or only one film about war. Climate change is the biggest issue facing humanity, so we need as many films as possible about it. And what we wanted to do is, after Al Gore had put the evidence on the table and he'd shown the science, we wanted to make people care about the issue, because what we could see is that people knew the information, they knew about climate change, but they weren't changing their behaviour, they weren't doing anything. So we wanted to make a human film, a film that makes people care, gets them angry, makes them feel guilty, and really gets them off the sofas and gets them doing something. And so that's why we chose human stories in our film. We didn't have scientists. It's not a lot of men, telling you the problem. We tried to choose inspiring people around the world to represent the issues.
I've watched the movie and I saw 6 cases, persons, families who are acting now in this period and who are acting now against climate change. Is there a relationship between those people and the actor Pete Postlethwaite, who is presenting them?
Well, in our film, Pete Postlethwaite is in 2055 in runaway apocalyptic climate change, and he's kind of my age now. And so he's looking back from 2055 and trying to figure out why we didn't stop climate change when we had the chance, as you know. And so he's looking in this archive, it's like YouTube, and he's finding these documentary clips, and the people he finds are the documentaries that we made. So there is no relation between him and them in the film. He just finds these clips in the archive.
And was Pete hard to get to work on this movie? Because he's one of my favorite actors.
Oh, he's one of our favourite actors too. I mean, we're independent political documentary makers, so Pete Postlethwaite is completely out of our league. Steven Spielberg said he's the best actor in the world. So when we decided to have an old man in the future, the top of our list was Pete Postlethwaite, but we never thought we would get him. But Franny, Armstrong, the director, she Googled Pete Postlethwaite and climate change, and she found an article in which he was getting a wind turbine put up on his property, and he said in the article, every person has to do everything they can to stop climate change. So when we read that, we thought, maybe there's a chance that we get him. And we applied to his agent, and he had worked with one of our team before, and he said when he got the letter, it was because of climate change, because of the issue. He absolutely felt he had to do it. And when he said yes, that was like the best day on the whole production. It was December. He said yes in December, and we got this email. We were ecstatic. We were over the moon. But he said, yes, I'll do it. But he said, I can only do it on this one day in January. So we went from ecstatic to panic, because we had never shot a drama before. We'd never written a drama script. We had to make a drama location. We had to get a drama crew in 1 month. We had to do the work of a whole film for a year, because he said I can only do this one day. So it was quite scary.
Was there a collaboration with the English Green Party?
There wasn't a collaboration, but we're of a similar way of thinking. So in terms of research and that kind of thing, you're always sharing ideas. They didn't put money in or anything like that, but they've screened the film. They screened it at their national conference last year, quite early on. We let them have an early preview screening, and we're really supportive of what they're doing. I actually stood for the Green Party in New Zealand last year in November in the general election in New Zealand, because after making the film, I could see that while it's really important to cut our own personal emissions, it's politics is where we need the change. And so I wanted to use the film as a political campaigning tool to get people to think about, political issues and get them to vote green. So I went back to New Zealand and I did a campaign for the election. And in New Zealand we have proportional representation, so it's a bit different than in England. I don't know what political system you have here, but so I wasn't trying to get in. I was just trying to help the Greens get more votes, and they did, so I was really happy.
Why are the British people so afraid of windmill farms?
That's a really good question, because I live in England and the film's set in Britain. People don't normally ask that question because it is a big controversy in the UK. People feel that they are very ugly, that they spoil the view, that they impact on your health, or that they make these sounds. It's not very much based on science. It's based on, I think, people not wanting change. And you see in our film, it's a story of Piers, who is trying to make a wind farm, against the people who are trying to stop him make the wind farm. And we chose this story because it had conflict, which in a film is really good, but also because it represented the stupidity of all of us. The anti-wind farm people, they represent how stupid people can be when they're putting their own needs in front of everybody else on the planet's needs, but also people in future generations.
The financement of the movie, as far as I know, you've worked on it 4 or 5 years without a budget, without finance. How did you manage to do the job?
No, we did have a budget, we did have finance. We did this crowdfunding, we call it, where we sold shares in the film to people who believe in the issue and wanted us to make the film. So we started in 2004, and we started with £500 shares. 100 £500 shares, and that was a lot of money. You know, we held an event where we told people what the film was going to be, what we hoped, and it was very scary because we had a piece of paper like this with some ideas on it and nothing else, and we said, please, you know, buy a share in our film. And people did. They bought a lot of shares the very first night, and while we were making the film, we thought there's no way we can raise all the budget from just this share selling. You know, at some point we thought we would have to go to a funding body, but people kept putting money in, and so we made the amount bigger. £5,000 was the second round. Now it's £10,000, and people get a much smaller percentage of the profits now because it's a lower risk investment. So essentially, these investors will get paid back once a year for 10 years, and they might make a profit on their investment. You never know. You never know.
So, when people have seen the movie, what should they do?
Well, we hope that when people see the film, they're really inspired and motivated to go out and do something. Hopefully people know that this year is the UN Climate Summit in December in Copenhagen, and that's when the world's leaders come together and decide the successor to the Kyoto Treaty. So that's when we need to decide what emissions cuts we're going to make internationally. And if we want to peak global emissions, as we have to, if we're going to avert runaway climate change in 2015 and then decrease afterwards, we need to make a deal this year, 2009. This is the last year we can make a deal. So everybody this year, if you've got any spare time, if you've got any spare money, if you've got any spare capacity in your life, you know, we would say this is the time, this is what our generation is going to be remembered for. This year, it'll be whether we succeed or fail to get the right deal to avert runaway climate change. So we need everybody to do everything they can. If you're a songwriter, write a song about climate change. If you're a newspaper editor, focus your newspaper on climate change. Whatever you do, you need to, this year, make it work towards averting a climate crisis, because otherwise next year it might be too late.
Okay, thank you very much.